A lot of these GLP-1s are very effective for not only the weight loss, but the weight maintenance that you need to have afterwards to continue to benefit from those health effects, because they have seen studies when you come off of the therapy that weight will rebound. Now, I don't want to scare everybody because there is very much a possibility that you can come off the drug and still be successful. Because God forbid insurance changes and you no longer have coverage and you don't have access to the medication, let's say, that's why it's so important that when you begin this journey, that you have that support from your multidisciplinary team cheering you on, and that you are building those lifestyle changes. I know it's like a broken record. Whenever you talk about weight loss or weight maintenance, everyone's like, yeah, lifestyle changes, diet and exercise, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's very true. If you don't instill those habits while you're on the therapy and then you stop therapy for whatever reason, it's going to be harder, more difficult potentially for you to keep that weight off. And that's ultimately what we're all sick of, is that yo-yo dieting. I don't want to lose 20 pounds again or 50 pounds again. It's too difficult.
Welcome to Three Little Fishes. We're three sisters who grew up in the Midwest together, but have since spread across the country. I live in Los Angeles.
I'm in Nashville.
And I live in Philadelphia. We are all married with children, have all had careers, but now we stay at home with our families.
Join us as we share secrets and stories about being women, wives, and mothers.
We welcome you to laugh along, learn something new, reach out, and join our conversation.
So let's jump in.
What's up, fishes?
What's up, fishes?
I'm back.
Welcome back, Linda.
Power back. Yay.
We're glad you're back. How many days did you lose power?
So like 4.5.
I know,
but honestly, there are a couple of people who still don't have power. They did the more populated areas first, and now they're kind of like branching out. But we still have ice everywhere, and it's been kind of a wild storm. So we're all good.
I feel bad for all you guys. You know, I mean, it's cold here. I mean, it's colder here than it ever has been. And I've lived here for 11 years.
Yeah.
Did you see that the news, like in Florida, where the iguanas, they're finding like
falling out of the trees?
Yes, and they're stunned.
Yes,
and
I saw
they
that.
say people are like picking them up, and that you have to be careful because they're not dead. So then they'll like put them in their cars, and then they wake up, and then they're like, ah.
Yeah.
So try to get them.
So the iguanas are so cold, they're falling asleep, they're hibernating or falling asleep.
I think they call it bromation or something, like what snakes do too. But like they're getting so cold, they're like on the trees, and then they're falling from the trees.
Or they'll find them on the ground. They're just like, they look like they're dead, and they're not.
Poor things.
People.
You have to change the lyrics to the song "It's Raining Men" to "It's Raining Iguanas."
I feel bad for them. We're ready for spring.
Nobody likes the winter. No one likes
it. Stinks.
All right, you guys. On today's show, we're going to be talking about what's the buzz, and we have two special guests with us today talking about GLP-1 drugs and medication and what's for dinner. But before we get started, please, I want to remind everybody to please rate, review, send a comment, invite your favorite fishes to jump in and join our conversation. What's the buzz? Well, I think the first thing that we want to mention is Catherine Ohara passed away. I know all three of us just loved her, and it was quite a shock that she passed.
Yeah, I could not believe that. I got addicted to her. I think during COVID, because I started watching Schitt's Creek, and I would exercise.
So good. Such a funny show.
And I would end up like rewatching reruns.
Yes.
And my husband's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I just think she's so funny." And like
her accent in that was, her inflection
and her
was
talking
so funny
about like her wigs. Like,
her girls.
The girls.
Her girls.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought she was awesome.
It's so funny that Peter's like, "Why are you rewatching that?" Tim is the same way. It's like, "How many times can you watch this episode?" I'm like, "A lot." Like the episode when she's like, making the enchiladas and they don't know what it means to fold in the cheese.
Yeah.
Fold it in.
Laughed so hard when I watched that.
She was, I
What
did
do you
hear
mean,
an
folded
interview.
the
Yeah. How do I do that? Like a piece of paper? I watched an interview where she talked about that character and how she worked with them to build her character out, and the accent and the wigs were her idea. The costuming was her idea. And then also she really made it hard for the editors because she never did a take the same way. So they were always trying to find like the best that they could find. Anyway, she's going to be missed. She was like really endearing and authentic and talented. And so our hearts go out to her
I feel bad for her family.
Yeah.
And her latest project is the studio on Apple.
Yeah.
And that's also really good.
Yeah.
You all, the other thing I wanted to mention was I have been thinking about Oscars and the movies that are coming out and trying to just see a few of them before the awards. And I just watched Kate Hudson in Song Sung Blue.
Yeah. How was it?
Because I was curious about her performance in particular. I was actually shocked. I actually liked it. And at a couple points of the movie, I had to like kind of get myself together because I could have done an ugly cry. Like I was surprised that I was having like this emotional response. I actually thought she did a really good job.
Okay, well, she's getting an Oscar nod, so that's
good.
And
it makes me want to listen to Neil Diamond Essentials.
Okay.
I love Neil Diamond.
I've been doing the same thing. I've watched If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You with Rose Byrne, and it is incredible. I mean, the way they did it is incredible. The cinematography, the camera work, she is amazing. But I mean, it is stressful. I was not relaxed. I mean, it's amazing, but it's not something I want to watch over and over again. So, but I hope it gets something because the way they did it is amazing. And I did hear they filmed it in like 20 days or something. Yeah. And it was a low budget film, but you would never in a million years know that. It's really well done. So If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Check it out. It's a stressed out mommy story. And it's like, holy. Yeah.
Well, I caught a little bit of the Grammys the other night. And I didn't watch the whole thing, I'll be honest, but a few parts of it, I really was intrigued. There was a new artist on there. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name's called Alex Warren. And he came out and he's cute and he walked through the audience and he sang his song Ordinary, which he wrote for his wife. And he's like, I think 25 years old.
Yeah.
But just the voice on him. And I mean, I almost like teared up, like listening to this song. Like it was so cute. And I didn't know anything about it when I was listening to it. I kind of Googled him after and realized that he actually wrote that for his wife. So you guys should check it out.
Is it poppy? Is it country? What is it?
One moment it was kind of like gospel-y. I mean, he has like such a big voice and they had all the little light like showing in the audience.
All right.
But
I'll have to check it out.
It's not like gospel. I'm not sure what do you call it. But yeah, you should check it out.
I want to talk about the fashion. Like, did you guys see Chappell Roan?
Yes,
I mean, I actually don't understand why we have pictures of her body out there in the world.
Like hanging out for everyone to see.
Yeah, so if you didn't see it, you should Google her. And she had a dress that was barely covered and she had like piercings in her nipples and fabric attached. So you basically saw her whole breasts out with piercings. And it was very shocking. And I don't think that love your body, do what you want, like dress how you want. But also, I don't think I'm prudish that way. But also, like, I'm not sure that is appropriate to show on primetime it felt very like too far. It's just too far. And I'm like, am I getting old that I feel like that way? Or, have we kind of like lost our minds a little bit?
Well, I don't understand it either. I mean, like, a man wouldn't be out on stage exposing his private area with a piercing.
You mean his penis? You're saying his penis wouldn't be out with the piercing?
I mean, like, everybody would be up in arms.
Yeah, I feel that way.
It doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. Like, indecent exposure, doesn't that account for that? I mean,
maybe that doesn't exist anymore. I have no idea. And also Heidi Klum, she was wearing like this rubber fitted
I didn't care for that outfit either.
Body dress. And I think she's so gorgeous.
She's amazing, but there were no secrets there. I mean, we saw everything.
I just think
I don't want to see everything. Everybody, I mean, is nothing private anymore? I mean, are we trying to be so talked about that we are just, I mean, are there no boundaries for decorum ever?
Well, I'm just wondering, it's a shock value, right? Is that what you're trying to get attention with? Is that what your dress looks like instead of like your craft?
I guess so. I mean, we're talking about it, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, we are talking about it, and that's all I saw. And Riley was looking at it with me at the night of the Grammys, and I was like, and he was embarrassed. I was embarrassed. I was like, what are we looking at? Like,
right.
I don't know.
It's too much.
Okay, you guys, let's move on. Okay, today we have two guests here talking about GLP-1 medications. And I think it's going to be a really interesting talk because I personally think people should live their best life, take medication if they need it for weight loss. Obviously, it's a drug for diabetes. But I also worry everybody's talking about it. Like everybody's doing GLP-1. And I'm like, should I be doing GLP-1? So for me specifically, I don't know a lot about it. And I'm interested to hear what their thoughts are about it. Who's a good candidate for it? Is it working? So I'm excited to hear what they have to say. Let's jump in.
Today, we have the privilege to talk to two healthcare professionals about the growing use of GLP-1 drugs and weight health. Our first guest is a very good friend of mine. Lori is a nurse practitioner and a diabetes educator, and it has been for the last 25 years. She's worked not only in the clinic, but also in the industry, and has dealt with all aspects of diabetes management. And then our second guest is Kelsi. She's a dietitian and has been working in the weight loss management field and has been practicing in a hospital setting, a clinical setting, and in the industry for over 10 years. So we welcome you both to our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so happy you're here.
So Lori, the GLP-1 drugs, everybody is talking about them, it seems like, and everybody's using them. Like I just was at golf this morning, and there are two women that are using these drugs, and I can tell you they have lost. I mean, this one girl in particular has lost so much weight. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're shriveling up. I mean, this is definitely the rage right now.
Well, it's been around for a while, actually, because even when I worked in the diabetes clinic, 15 years ago, there was a first generation GLP-1 that was used. It didn't have the same effects that we see now with lowering blood sugar and the weight reduction, but it was there. It was really when Ozempic came out that it really gained popularity and momentum. But that is approved for the type 2 diabetes population. And we were just studying it to make sure it lowered blood sugars effectively, which it did. But then the nice bonus side effect was, the weight reduction. Mm-hmm. So it kind of gained popularity. And, other companies now are coming out with their versions of it. The medicine is very helpful because what it does is it slows down how food moves through the stomach. If your blood sugars start getting too high, it tells your pancreas to release more insulin, and then it tells your brain that you feel fuller.
And then how does that affect diabetes? I still don't totally understand.
Yeah, with diabetes, we're always struggling trying to maintain a blood sugar level in a range, a controlled range, so that our 3-month average test, the hemoglobin A1C, will be at goal. So the American Diabetes Association sets goals, for patients, because we know from research studies, if we keep them well controlled, we drastically reduce complications. So with diabetes and GLP-1s, what it's doing is when you maybe eat a little too much of the carbohydrates and you've got extra sugar floating around in the body, instead of letting that, stagnate and kind of stay high blood sugars, it tells your pancreas to let out more insulin and move the sugar in the cells and keep the blood sugars down.
What about someone that actually doesn't have diabetes?
So then it's really just functioning more like a weight loss medication. But we really, my counterpart here, Kelsi, I used to work with Kelsi. She understands, like what we've all used through the weight loss journey for patients. And we have never had a medicine that spoke to what we call food noise, but I'll let her explain food noise and her experience with obesity and, different medications.
So being overweight or obese just simply points to the excess of body fatness and the accumulation. And I want you to think about that infiltrating the different organs in our bodies, because that's what explains kind of where we get those health risks or those comorbidities. So when that disrupts, like your body fat is an endocrine system, so it carries with it hormones, and those hormones, varying levels and things like that, will change, and over time it will manifest into things like high blood pressure, joint pain, sleep apnea, stroke, heart disease, all of those things, type 2 diabetes. That's the disruption and the infiltration and the systems not working maybe as well as they did before. And it's that prolonged damage but then when we see those conditions, that's the result of kind of that long-term effect. So when we talk
So are
about,
you talking about like visceral fat, that fat that kind of like wraps around organs? It seems like, at my age, I'm constantly talking about hormones or the lack of hormones. Like I'm so exasperated with the whole thing, because as you age, you lose that natural level of hormone that you need to live your life in a like positive, healthy way. Like it affects your sleep, it affects your weight, it affects your mood, it affects everything. And it plummets. So what I'm hearing from you is this GLP-1 is actually a hormone in our bodies.
it is. It's naturally occurring. And what Lori was talking about was we have GLP-1 receptors all over our bodies from head to toe. And so as we're developing FDA indications for obesity, type 2 diabetes, kidney health, fatty liver, we're starting to see how putting exogenous or an external form of GLP-1s kind of turns those receptors on. And when it comes to obesity, what it helps with is kind of turning off those brain signals and that food noise that Lori was referring to, which helps us focus more on, how full do I feel? When should I stop? It kind of settles down and quiets some of those craving signals. So that's kind of where we see it as acting like a neurotransmitter in our brain and what we're receiving as messages. But then as we pursue more research with these GLP-1s and what we're seeing is it's starting to improve, like Lori said, heart disease, reduce risk of stroke, helps with fatty liver, which is an area that really didn't have a lot of treatment options, but now with GLP-1s and the receptors that we see turning them on, we're seeing treatment just for fatty liver. And that is a standalone indication. You don't have to have type 2 diabetes with it. You don't have to have obesity with it. You just have to be diagnosed with that fatty liver. And then we're also alluding to some research with Alzheimer's as well. And that'll continue to progress, just like you've been talking about with hormones and endocrine systems and endocrinologists. We might see this progress into other treatment options that we haven't seen in the past, like PCOS, which affects so many women, it's such a frustrating disease because there's not to this day a significant treatment option, but we might see in the coming years more weight loss, and a lot more comorbidities that are finally getting the treatment, significant treatment, lifelong treatment, and a lot of relief that we haven't seen. So it's really emerging science. It's very fast research, so much so that I think healthcare system are having a hard time just keeping up with it because it's exploding.
So, Kelsi, you mentioned polycystic ovaries. So, I mean, does that allude to like women gaining weight during menopause? I mean, could this drug be used to help treat that?
I can't say explicitly whether they're going to develop something to help treat the symptoms of menopause. But I will say that what we do know about menopause is a lot of those hormones fluctuating, estrogen, cortisol, all of those things that create those side effects that you see in traditional menopause. That's a lot of those hormones changing. And so it's very promising research. I can't say definitively, but I mean, it remains to be seen if GLP-1s and kind of this whole class of medications, if we're starting to see some really good treatment options for all kinds of diseases that we really haven't had true treatment options for.
So I have a question for both of you. Like, so the GLP-1s are sort of in our body already. There is this medication that you could take that kind of helps balance your system. So it helps with your diabetes, helps with weight loss, blah, blah, blah. Is there a way to trigger that naturally by food we eat or food we don't eat or, because like at my age, we talk about high cortisol, we talk about low hormones. So my doctor's always like, get enough sleep, eat, try not to stress, and I'm like, I don't know what planet you're living on, but okay.
Don't stress. Sure.
But,
check.
I mean, in terms of like, is there a natural trigger foods or food groups or things that help with naturally helping your GLP-1s so that maybe it kind of, you don't have to take the medication? Or
there is research. I can't say it's definitive, but what I will say from what I've seen is that a lot of the foods that you'll see that have shown to maybe help with triggering GLP-1 naturally, it's all the same kind of foods that are high in fiber, a lot of fruits and vegetables, kind of the same thing. And we'll get maybe more into that later about just kind of balancing your plate and focusing on just a variety of food groups and kind of what to pay attention to. But ultimately, you want a balanced plate, lean protein or low fat dairy products. You'll see a lot of times pre and probiotics too mentioned. And you'll see a lot of fermented foods.
Yes.
So the great thing about pre and probiotics, the probiotics are those fermented foods that we think of: yogurt, kefir, kimchi, things like that. I don't think prebiotics get as much buzz, but they work together synergistically. So my classic example of a pre and probiotic where you don't have to go and buy supplements is a banana and a yogurt.
Oh,
It's cheap, it's easy, it's readily available.
banana yogurt. Oh,
yeah, easy.
Yeah, our new
I
breakfast
love
every
that.
day.
I mean, my sisters always tease me because, I'll be on socials and because of my age and I've always been kind of health conscious, but I've like weight's creeped up and time, like whatever. So I'm always like looking for, okay, what am I supposed to be doing now? And my algorithm is always popping up like supplements, workouts, like all the things. And I do take a prebiotic and a probiotic supplement because I'm also trying to not have too many calories. You know what I mean? It's like this delicate, like you don't want to eat too much fat, but you got to get your protein, but you got to get all the stuff, but you can't eat too many calories because then pretty soon you're 20 pounds overweight. So is it okay to take a supplement, you think?
It's perfectly fine to take a supplement. And when I worked with my bariatric surgery patients, we focused a lot on supplementation and kind of going back to what Lori alluded to earlier with malnutrition. Supplements are there to obviously supplement our diet, but not necessarily replace our diet. So if we get a good foundation, a balanced diet, those lean proteins, the low fat dairy, lower in sugar. I'm not going to say that we can perfect our diet, because there's no way, not even a dietitian like myself can be perfect. And that's not what we should be striving for anyway. And then higher fiber carbohydrates, and then your variety of fruits and vegetables. And that's something that we can all benefit from. And I'm not asking everyone to go and overhaul their entire pantry and fridge. Just focus on one thing at a time. And I'll say, if you just do a lot of the work when you're shopping, you don't have as much to worry about then, because your kitchen and your fridge and your pantry are kind of halfway doing the work for you. So if you bring in good products in, you just eat what you have on hand, and then half the work's already done for you. And then we can focus more on mindful eating and cooking skills, and trying to make those cooking skills healthier. But it's just one small step at a time, not a big overhaul.
So to me, it sounds like GLP-1s, that are the hormone in our body. Is there a way that we can measure these? Because it seems like sometimes if people are overweight, maybe it's not totally their fault. Like if their hormone isn't producing correctly, just like insulin or anything else in our body, shouldn't we get help with that? So, we're not shamed of, just don't eat that cookie and then you would be, the perfect weight, or you would not have, high blood pressure or whatever that is.
I mean, I think in the future we will see that. At this point, we don't have, a way to really measure it. I think it's being studied in labs, and they're probably trying to figure out how to do it, because we start everyone on the same dose, whether you need to lose 20 pounds or whether you need to lose 100 pounds. And right now it's just a very standard, approach that we do. Whereas with insulin, we can measure how much insulin a person's body's making, and it gives us a much better idea of, and we base it off their body weight. It's a much more fine-tuned way to start insulin, and we just don't have that yet for GLP-1s.
When it comes to obesity, and when you compare the research and the history of diabetes versus obesity, diabetes has a long-standing history of research and a body of evidence. Obesity is just, I believe the last thing I heard was, as it's just now recognized as a disease, which is true. It's now recognized as a disease, but it's really only considered a disease in the last decade or so. So that's why we don't have a whole lot of, we're doing a lot more research, because we're seeing the implications of obesity on Americans and worldwide. But if we just focus on the research itself, there's not been as much in the treatment, because it's all been about calories in, calories out, and willpower. But now what we're seeing is that with obesity, we're seeing the impact of genetics, the environment, the stress, everything are all factors that contribute to one's excess body weight. It's not purely willpower, and I want that to be a big takeaway.
What can you define what obesity is? Because we always used to talk about BMI. I don't know if that's still relevant, or if we have moved on to something else, but what is obesity, and does it always go hand in hand with type 2 diabetes?
They're risk factors for each other. Obesity is defined as a BMI greater than 30, but I, as a dietitian, and many people who have worked in weight loss or weight management, will say that BMI is a very simple, probably too simple form of measuring health, because it's the relationship of your height versus your weight. And so when we look at that scale, what I immediately think of is how all the shortcomings of a BMI. It's quick and easy, and yes, we're using that to, if someone wants to be on one of these medications, the first thing they're going to ask is what's their BMI. But if you take, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, or you take Arnold Schwarzenegger, those are big muscular guys. Their BMI is at least 30, if not more, but we clearly see that it's not a representation of their body fatness. So I just want to make sure that people are only taking the number on the scale and the BMI number just as one part of their whole health picture, because what we really need to be focusing on are the other numbers and the other data points, lab tests, blood tests, and body composition. And body composition is just as important because it gives you the whole picture of what's going on internally. So I always talk about non-scale victories, because you can see a decrease in body fat if you're exercising, an increase in muscle mass if you're exercising. Maybe you are working on your hydration status, so you see that come through in other ways that are not based on the scale, and that matters just as much, if not more, than reaching that goal weight. And as well as other things, I would consider any improvement in your health a huge win. So I want you to celebrate, an improvement in blood pressure, cholesterol, anything like that, just as much as if you reached your goal weight, because it's just as important.
I mean, this is real world stuff. Like, I actually live with someone he carries weight in his stomach. Like, everywhere else is like thin, but men normally carry weight in their stomach. And for a person that maybe has normal, like, blood sugar is fine, like all their labs are fine, but they are overweight, like Lori and Kelsi, is this person eligible, or should they be on GLP-1s to help manage this weight? Because it's something that it's not just, has happened over the last couple of years. It's been a chronic thing since they were probably a teenager. So this person was just prone to be heavier, and they have a big frame. So what would you say to a person like that?
I see it among families, females, sisters, generations. They might have a very similar body shape. And so you can't outrun genetics. And so someone might have a genetic predisposition, but that doesn't mean you give up. That means I've seen athletes with from genetics, high blood pressure or high cholesterol, no matter how well they eat, how much they exercise. They just have that family predisposition that puts them at risk, but they can still do all the other things that they can control.
So you're saying that maybe you can't do anything about, like, as long as they're being as healthy as they can, maybe this is just how it is. Like, they're going to always have a gut.
Not necessarily. And I want to focus on, if we're focusing on kind of that midsection and that visceral fat that we were talking about earlier, that having that weight or that excess fat in that particular location does put you at specific health risks. And so again, exercise, nutrition, counseling, different things. Sometimes it's sugar-based, sometimes it's alcohol. That's why you need to see a dietitian to really comb through what might be contributing to it, in addition to other factors like genetics, environment, stress, all of those things combined, and look at the whole picture of the person, not just a few things.
But do you think those people are candidates for the GLP-1?
It depends on their health history. Like Lori mentioned, if they have heart disease or a heart attack or a stroke, different things like that run in their family. Like my mom's side, they have a strong family history of heart disease. That might be something that insurance is willing to cover, because then that helps prevent those GLP-1 drugs, help prevent a recurrence or another event.
So you should talk to your healthcare provider about it and see if there's something they can do.
Yeah, especially if they have like another medical condition, like if they have sleep apnea and their BMI is more than 27, even that qualifies them for GLP-1. So there's a lot of new criteria that's been added in. We call them comorbid conditions.
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
So that's interesting, because I thought it was only if you were pre-diabetic that insurance will pay for it, or diabetic.
No, other medical conditions that cause or, complicate obesity, and, then that will, like, if you're 30, your BMI is 30 or higher, you can be indicated for the medication if your insurance covers it. But if you're 27 with a comorbid condition or another medical condition, then it will get covered. If the insurance covers it.
Yeah. Do you ladies have any concerns about, like, there's not enough research, right, on these GLP-1 medications, right, for people who are not diabetic? We know that they probably can be helpful, but are there any concerns in the healthcare world about long-term effects of people using these medications other than for diabetes?
Well, I think, Kelsi and I were talking yesterday, and we were saying it's like they're building the, ship as it's going in the water. And so we don't
Right.
know yet. We don't know what we don't know. But I would say if your doctor's prescribed it and they've done a thorough health and history on you to make sure you're a good candidate for the medicine, the studies we have now do go out pretty far. We're talking 10 plus years. So I think that, and with every medication, you have to weigh the benefits versus the risks.
Yeah.
What are the risks? Like, what are the side effects to this?
The biggest side effects that we hear are the GI. So, it's the bloating, the nausea, kind of just feel that GI distress. And then it can be constipation all the way to, diarrhea. Not to get too personal, but, those are all the GI side effects that people talk about. But we worked with a lot of nurse practitioners and providers where they would prescribe a medicine called Zofran, which helps with nausea, because they were not, and they admitted they were not really teaching any dietary guidelines. When they started teaching those dietary guidelines that you need to stay away from the fried fast foods, eat healthy, cut your meal down by a third, but eat every 4 to 5 hours, kind of avoid or limit alcohol, limit soda, more water, more healthy. They didn't have to use that kind of medicine anymore for their patients. They no longer had to prescribe Zofran. So I think just having that knowledge going into the medicine helps eliminate those GI side effects.
Is hair loss a real thing?
Well, I think when weight is lost, it'll happen on Weight Watchers too. If weight is lost too rapidly, your body doesn't have enough protein to keep the hair going. I mean, as I get older, my hair is thinning anyway, so I would rather have a few extra pounds and have more hair, but that's me.
That was a common concern among bariatric patients because they would lose weight so rapidly in the beginning, right after their surgery, their body kind of went through a shock. Like, what's happening? Why am I not getting the nutrition I need? And then it conserves and it starts to prioritize certain things to help you survive. Well, hair loss is not one of those main priorities. So it's just like, I'm going to let this go. And it would be a common question. And no one was walking around bald, only that person and maybe their hairdresser might notice some hair loss. But then once their weight stabilized, usually you would see that restored.
Can you eat anything as you're on this GLP-1 that would offset hair loss and or muscle loss? Because
I mean, at this point, we would say meet with your dietitian and have your meal plan planned out to make sure you're getting adequate protein, because that's based on your body weight as well. But, some of the dietitians we worked with in the hospital would say they'd have patients in with malnutrition because no one taught the patient how to eat on this medication. And they'd go 3 days without eating and thinking that was okay. And that's not okay.
So this is interesting. So I think that I didn't realize this. Like, I hear people talk about taking the medication, but you all are like, this is really wraparound. Like, you need your primary physician, you need a dietitian, and you really need to have people, helping you manage this medication.
Circle the wagon.
Yeah, and changing your lifestyle to make sure that you're feeling the best you can on this, and that the medication isn't taking stuff away from your body that you need, right? Like, are people, because I wonder, I mean, muscle mass, like, are people losing that if they're not eating well?
Well, that happens as you age anyway. So you have to be very mindful of that. You don't want to have bone fractures and all the things that kind of encompass the protein in the muscle.
With this medication, if you choose whether you need it for diabetes or you're doing it for weight loss or whatever that is, that journey is for you, what is the maintenance look like once you're on these GLP-1s? Do you have to stay on them for life, or how do you maintain the health benefits you get?
I would say at this point in time, a lot of these GLP-1s are very effective for not only the weight loss, but the weight maintenance that you need to have afterwards to continue to benefit from those health effects. So at this time, in order to, well, it's recommended to stay on the GLP-1 therapy because they have seen studies when you come off of the therapy, that weight will rebound. Now, I don't want to scare everybody because there is very much a possibility that you can come off the drug and still be successful. Because God forbid insurance changes and you no longer have coverage and you don't have access to the medication, let's say, that's why it's so important that when you begin this journey, that you have that support from your multidisciplinary team cheering you on, and that you are building those lifestyle changes. I know it's like a broken record. Whenever you talk about weight loss or weight maintenance, everyone's like, yeah, lifestyle changes, diet and exercise, but it's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
It's very true. If you don't instill those habits while you're on the therapy and then you stop therapy for whatever reason, it's going to be harder, more difficult potentially for you to keep that weight off. And
Right.
that's ultimately what we're all sick of, is that yo-yo dieting. I don't want to
Right.
lose 20 pounds again or 50 pounds again. It's too difficult.
Right.
Right. Who wants to go through that? Nobody.
So, Lori, if you had like two things that you want our listeners to walk away from, like what would you tell them about what we've talked about today?
Well, I would say, like if you're talking about the population pre-diabetes and diabetes and what are their risks and that sort of thing, we're going to provide some websites that people can go to kind of see what their risks are through American Diabetes Association and cdc.gov. But I would say, what we always try to teach patients is eat a healthy diet, and that is going to be your fruits and vegetables, your low fat meat, and then just make sure your plate's colorful. And Kelsi can go into more detail on that. But, manage your stress, because stress really does play a big part in all of these disease states. So I know we can kind of joke and say, just, check it off the box, but
lower your stress.
we tell people, find a way that makes you happy to relieve stress, a healthy way, whether it's exercise, whether it's joining a group with a new hobby, journaling, all those things. Exercise is extremely important. So ADA guidelines for prediabetes, diabetes, 30 minutes, moderate level exercise 5 times a week. That helps keep everything in check. So bicycling, swimming, dancing. And now what they've added is weight resistance training twice a week, because we know that muscle is so important in all of it.
Right.
And then, if you have prediabetes, you're not probably going to be taking any medication. There are a few insurance companies that cover GLP-1s for prediabetes if there's a cardiovascular indication. And then just communicating with your healthcare provider and getting your blood work done to see where your levels are and when you're transitioning from prediabetes to diabetes, because treatment will change.
So if you are thin, can you also get type 2 diabetes?
You can. Actually, about 10% of our type 2 patients are normal weight. So obesity is a big risk factor, but it's also your family genetics, your environment, your stress levels, and your diet. I mean, a lot of that. So that's why we promote healthy eating. And I do want to just add in about the GLP-1 foods that I just came across something that said certain foods give you a GLP-1 type effect. So they were talking about like beans, because when you eat beans, they take up a lot of space in your stomach and your tummy there. They make you feel fuller for longer. That's what a GLP-1 does. And they said eggs have the same effect. Avocados have the same effect. Chia seeds have the same effect. So that's probably, I know you had heard that before, but I think that's what they were probably alluding to.
It seems like as a society, we kind of look for that magic pill, that magic solution to some of the things that we do in our life. What would you like our listeners to take away from in terms of the diet,
like from your perspective, GLP-1s, diet, obesity, being overweight, being underweight, like give our listeners like three takeaways that they can kind of maybe implement in their own lives.
Well, I want to start off by saying, to me as a dietitian and all of the patients I've talked to and the many struggles I've seen, the tears, obesity management is so complex. We don't expect you to do it by yourself. So I really do encourage anyone. I mean, we have so many options now for healthcare. We have telehealth. You can there's different, internet programs and things like that you can benefit from, but find a team or a provider that has your back. I've heard so many stories of people saying, well, I thought this medication was right for me, but then when I went to my doctor, they just told me I just need to, move more and eat less. And then I was kind of disgruntled afterwards, or discouraged. And I don't want that to stop anyone. Find another provider, find a second opinion, find someone who's cheering you on. Because if I'm trying to set out and do something difficult, if I get shamed for it, I'm going to give up. But if I have
nobody wants shame
and encouragement, that's going to motivate me even more. So find someone that aligns with you, find a team. And there's lots of resources out there to find the right healthcare team for you. With that said, I also want to emphasize quality of life over quantity of pounds. And I'm going back to those non-scale victories, because it's, in this later stage of life, we have to protect what we built and acknowledge and pay gratitude to what our bodies do, because it's working so hard internally in all the different conditions we give it, right? Whether it's starvation, whether it's extreme cold temperatures, our body is changing constantly to make sure that it's adapting, that it has homeostasis or equilibrium, that it's balanced. And so just give yourself some love, because that body's done a lot to get you where you are. And just like your life, your career, your family, you didn't build it overnight. And so same thing goes with this journey. But continue to protect what you've built in your lifestyle changes rather than punishment.
That's great. That's great advice. That's great advice.
Just like you would a pet or a plant, if your dog was overweight, you wouldn't fat shame it, you wouldn't starve it, you would change its diet, you would encourage play and walking, you would give it love, and you would give it patience. So I encourage everyone to treat themselves just like they would anything else that they care about. And then finally, I also want to emphasize the importance of mindful eating. It's kind of experiencing food with all of your senses. So you're sitting in a quiet environment, you're paying attention to what you're eating and how you're eating it. You're taking small, slow bites. You're appreciating the food in front of you and whoever prepared it. And that's going to help you register when you're full, when you're satisfied, when you're satiated, what foods you like. So we're used to that rapid go where, you inhale something and you don't even remember eating it, or you ate so fast that you want something else. Well, if we just kind of slow down and take our time and appreciate the food that's nourishing our body as fuel, I think we'll be able to respect our bodies a lot more.
I love that, Kelsi. That's great.
Thank you.
Well, it also just got me thinking too, like, especially listening to you both talk, like, we all need to help each other and lift each other up. And you're doing that in such a nurturing way with good information. I'm not shaming you, but I'm here to help you. Here are some steps to get there.
Well, I think people that are overweight, they have a negative feel about themselves.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, society doesn't treat them very well. I mean, maybe Kelsi can speak to this better. Like, I feel like there is some weight bias that we aren't kind.
I think there are weight bias that people just.
Kathy, you pointed out the movie, the Nutty Professor. Did you guys ever watch that movie, The Nutty Professor, with
Eddie Murphy?
With Eddie Murphy?
Yeah. I mean, he was Sherman in that movie, and he came up with like a chemical, I think a liquid that he would eat, and then he became like this slim Buddy Love who was obnoxious. So, I mean, slim people don't need to be obnoxious, but I mean, people want to take the magic pill to become thinner. it makes people happier. And it's
Right.
like, I wish it was overnight, but it's not that way. But I mean, maybe this GLP-1 is our answer. I don't know.
Well, it certainly sounds like a good resource.
Yeah. You want people to be their best selves, right? Like if you feel your best, then you're able to give your best, receive the best from other people, right? So Kelsi, particularly, I hear you talking about you have to treat the whole self.
I like your team approach because it's not just about your overweight.
Girls, is there any other information you kind of are thinking in the back of your head? Like, I wish I would have said blah, blah, blah.
I might maybe give a little bit more information about some of the GI side effects and the GLP-1, specifically noting that slowed gastric emptying or slowed gut motility. You might kind of hear it described in different ways, but ultimately that food is still sitting in that stomach for longer. And so while I think Lori had mentioned like high fat foods is going to make you nauseous. And that's because protein and fat are very satiating. And so if that's kind of like a full stomach and you've got, a high fat meal, you can imagine why that would create some nausea. Well, and it's going to be sitting there for a lot longer than kind of what you're used to. And so again, that's why we want to emphasize eating more slowly, paying attention, because you'll be more cued into those signals and know exactly when to stop before you kind of overdo it. And then you have the repercussions of, oh, I ate too much or I ate the wrong thing. And don't be afraid to ask your healthcare provider all of these questions, because it's really important that you need to know. And you're going to be the one on the GLP-1. You're going to be the one that's going to suffer the consequences if you're not eating the correct foods. And what I also say is sometimes the order of the plate matters. So I keep mentioning balanced plate and we keep talking about protein. Well, if I only have, maybe I'm only eating half of what I used to eat on GLP-1s. Well, if I start with my vegetables or if I start with my carbohydrates first, I'm going to get full before I get to my protein. So it might be helpful if you kind of start with your protein first and kind of work your way around the plate just so you can get a little bit more. So just kind of think of that smaller capacity and what's, my primary or my priority with nutrition, and not saying that protein over anything else, but if you are strength training, it's going to benefit you to focus on that protein on your plate first and kind of work your way around the plate, getting everything that you need, but then not filling up on something else without getting your protein later. And I also want to mention that eating throughout the day gives you just more opportunities to have that balanced diet. So if you're used to eating twice a day and you go to eating 4 or 5 times a day, think of all the other opportunities you can get that added protein in, or those fruits or those vegetables. So I don't want to kind of corner someone into thinking I got to get all of this nutrition in 2 opportunities. No, break it up, make it easier on yourself, set timers. And that's going to help you with your portion control if you spread it out throughout the day. And as we know from diabetes, it helps with maintaining that blood sugar level as well. So lots of benefits to even changing the pattern.
I don't know how anyone could do it without a team, especially like if you're going to an office. You have to meal plan, you have to meal prep, you have to like strategize about, there's so much going into your day. And if you're not at home and you're out and about, I mean, I can't even imagine managing all that without somebody in my back pocket kind of helping me navigate what I'm supposed to eat.
And I think what I'm hearing too is not just simply I'm going to take this medication and all my worries are behind me, right? It's supposed to be a tool with a lot of parts to it. And I think that's what I learned today. Like I just thought it was simply this medication. Amazing. And you were going to be fine. Kelsi, I actually have a question for you. What if somebody comes to you and you have to change how you cook, how you eat? I'm not a good cook. I don't like it. I don't know what I'm doing. Going to the grocery store is overwhelming. Forget it. I can't do the kitchen stuff. I'm just a fast food person. What is how do you help them navigate this road of having to cook for themselves? And like, what would be what would be an approachable, easy way for them to start cooking for themselves and so they don't fail?
Much like we would maybe approach exercise, we have sometimes a love-hate relationship with exercise, but in order to be successful, we have to find an exercise that we enjoy, that we look forward to, that's going to help us carry through and continue that habit. And so while we're talking about nutrition and exercise and lifestyle changes, it's most about consistency in the pattern rather than all or nothing. So a lot of times we get in that mindset, well, if I don't eat perfectly today, it's a wash. I might as well just forget it. If you're eating better than you did before, it's a win. If you're moving your body more, it's still a win. So I don't want to discount any of that. What I will say with the cooking aspect, you can start with very convenience type foods. You don't have to, think of the ideal perfect person who's cooking at home and spending, hours doing that. Buy the pre-cut vegetables, buy the frozen things, buy the canned things. Just start with something that you're comfortable with incorporating or changing. And I would say maybe do one or two things at one time when it comes to grocery shopping or cooking. Because if you try to do it all, anybody, myself included, it's just too much to do all at once.
Yeah.
Progress over perfection.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, with exercise, with nutrition, with your lifestyle changes, you want to really, mentally and physically be present. And you see that in a lot of other cultures, and documentaries that talk about longevity or that they're at healthier weights because they have a much slower society lifestyle. They're eating, fresher foods, less preservatives. They're walking around a lot more. They're emphasizing, in the Mediterranean diet, we see a lot healthier fats, nuts, oils, olives, oily fish, fatty fish. And so we can mimic that same thing here, but we have to pay attention to what we're doing. When we pay attention, when we slow down, that's where we have control. And I've always kind of lived by that. If I slow down and pay attention, I have more control, whether it's a relationship or anything, driving, I'm going to be able to see before and know what I need to do before it happens because I'm paying attention and I'm aware.
I was just going to add, I can't speak to all the obesity websites because that's more Kelsi's side, but in the American Diabetes Association website, like diabetes.org, you can look up recipes. They teach you how to meal plan, and that's a healthy diet for anybody, whether you have diabetes or not.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
And
that. I mean,
they give in the show notes
all kinds of ideas, for people working, people at home, whatever your situation is. So,
And Lori, one last thing, and then we do have to wrap up. Do you promote, is this a real thing? Like having a 10 or 15 minute walk after you eat helps regulate blood sugar?
Yes. Yeah, that is a real thing. It is. It's been researched and, definitely. I just listened to I was on a webinar the other day for the 2026 ADA guidelines, and they talked about that actually, when people can do that, they should go for that 10-minute walk, especially after the largest meal of the day, because that will help bring down what we call the postprandial, the after meal blood sugar.
Okay. And don't you just feel better when you do that?
Well, you do, because you kind of get some digestion started, so you do feel better.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously are active. We really value healthy lifestyles. And this is something that we have talked about with our girlfriends and experienced at our homes. So yeah, I think it was really valuable, and we really appreciate your time and expertise.
Thank you, girls.
All right, you all. That was a ton of information. It was nice to have Lori and Kelsi on to share their expertise about GLP-1 medication. And I honestly learned a lot. I learned that it's a tool in your toolbox for your overall health. It can and does work. And it's a great tool to use in changing your lifestyle, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see, what research shows in the future, because maybe it could get approved for more uses than just diabetes at the moment. Like insurance would help cover people for weight loss, for maybe menopause, for people that have kidney problems or other ailments. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing I also learned, and maybe I'm just not very smart. I don't know why I didn't realize this, but GLP-1 is a hormone that we naturally already have, that everybody has in their body, right? So it's like some people struggle with their weight, just as you said, with gaining weight when we hit menopause, or, they could look at a cookie and put on weight. So, but there's no way that they haven't been measuring these GLP levels in our bodies like they do our sugars and other things that we measure, our cholesterol. But it would be interesting if your levels, your GLP level, if your GLP-1 levels, if your GLP-1 levels are low, why wouldn't you be able to take it to boost it just like you did a diabetic that needed insulin to help keep your body levels where they need to be? So I find it really fascinating that we're not checking these levels.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing, but I hope all of our listeners take away that, this can be part of your health journey. Talk to your doctor, see if you're a candidate. And, obviously, depending on where you are in your journey, talk with a dietitian, partner up. There's a lot of really good things happening with this drug, it sounds like to me. So I think it's exciting. And, I appreciate them coming on and talking to us and educating us.
And I also just wanted to say, too, that what I also heard Kelsi say, which I really appreciate, and I feel like we need to hear more, is not shaming each other about where we are in our health journey, particularly our weight journey, and building each other up. Like if you need some extra support, let's, get what you need. You need a team around you for just our health in general. So let's support each other instead of tearing each other down.
I think in our show notes, we'll put some websites out there that they shared with us, specifically at the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association. There are a lot of resources online that kind of help educate yourself. So you can go in armed with questions with your doctor, and, you're able to take charge of your life. So thank you for that. We appreciate it.
All right, y'all. What's for dinner? So what's for dinner had got me thinking as we are talking, particularly to Kelsi, who's a dietitian, and she's helping her patients try to fill up their cupboards the best they can, cook the best they can. We know we need to eat, high protein. We need a colorful plate with fruits and vegetables. And it got me thinking, and she said, I asked her privately if there was any secret recipes or things that she tells clients or patients that, make this meal, it's the best. And she's like, it's not really about a secret recipe or something in my cookbook, but it's just about making good choices, high protein, low sugar, and making those meals the healthiest you can. So my family really likes teriyaki chicken. And it got me thinking, I don't love to make it very often because I don't like to buy the bottles that are loaded with a ton of sugar and a lot of just sugar and stuff in there I can't pronounce.
Right.
So I made my own teriyaki recipe, and it was a very few ingredients. It's like water, soy sauce, like only 5 teaspoons of brown sugar, a tablespoon of honey, and then, some ginger and cornstarch, and that's it. And you cook it for 5 or 10 minutes, and it makes this delicious teriyaki sauce. And I feel like I've kind of cut out a lot of the junk, and we just grilled the chicken on the grill. We basted it with the teriyaki sauce, served it with some rice and a green vegetable. I chose some broccoli, and y'all, I felt like it was a healthy, balanced dinner with not a lot of sugar.
I mean, anything teriyaki is tasty. And I agree. I find whenever you buy these prepackaged things, which we have to do from time to time for convenience, there are a lot of extra ingredients. So if you can, trying to make your own, and if you wanted to, you could double it and save some and in the refrigerator and label it. And
I made a recipe that Kelsi had recommended. It was the slow cooker chicken with white bean stew. And I had it last night and it was very good.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I did not put a whole chicken in there with the skin. So mine might have been a little more bland than like the recipe called for, like as far as like flavor.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very good and it was very healthy.
Yeah.
So it was a good one, especially for winter time. Because it's nice and warm, hearty. So we'll put these recipes on our show notes so you can find them. We want to thank you for listening to our podcast and letting us sisters jump into your day. Please continue to follow us at threelittlefishes.com/show notes so you can get exclusive content and our recipes. Also make sure to follow us at 3LF Pod on social media to be part of the daily conversation. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl if you're going to watch it. Fishes out.